Hey everybody, it's Craig Syracuse. Welcome to a new episode of Walk in Faith. That's right, we are back in the Opera House, but this is an exciting episode. It's actually, I'm a little scared because this is not only Msgr Jamie Gigantiello, but he's a mentor, a friend, and he's my boss. So my family's livelihood is really just hanging on this interview. So welcome, Msgr. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here today, with you especially.
I appreciate it. And I know you have one of the busiest schedules, so I'm not going to take that much time. But if you could, there might be one or two people in the diocese, maybe throughout the country, that actually, they don't know what you do for a living. They don't know about the show. They don't know how many organizations you're a part of. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things you do, some of the initiatives?
Well, I was born now. Currently I'm the pastor of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Annunciation Church, which is right a couple of blocks from here. I'm also the vicar for development of the diocese. So I oversee the Catholic Foundation, I oversee Futures in Education, the annual Catholic Appeal, the Parish Giving Office, anything that has to do with development and fundraising for the diocese basically comes out of my office. I am the host, as you know, of Breaking Bread, because I did go to the Culinary Institute before I went into the priesthood. I worked for about 10 years in hotels and restaurants.
Wow.
And I enjoyed it. And then at 30, I entered the seminary. So I always say I went from feeding the stomach to feeding the soul.
Wow.
So those are some of the jobs that I have, and I'm involved in different community organizations. I'm involved in different things in the diocese, and I keep very active. I try to get the church and the good works of the church out there and let people know really what we do and what we're all about.
I mean, Msgr, that's a lot. I mean, I know, and you said job, and I don't think it's a job. I think it's your work.
Yes, it's my ministry. It's my
Exactly.
ministry, you know, and it's something that I love doing. I'm a priest now 26 and a half years, and I would do it all over again because, you know, bringing the message of Christ to people is where I encounter Christ, if you can make sense out of that. Because the faith is in the people, and I just bring it out of them. And it's wonderful, and it's a great experience, and I hope that this new Emmaus Center will do it even more.
I agree, and it is challenging. I mean, it's one thing you get to the pulpit and you preach the Word of God, but then it's also living that, right? The words, the action, the deeds, all to be in line, and it's got to be difficult at times, you know.
Oh,
I mean,
it is.
you're always on, and people. I've been at church so many times with you, Msgr Casado, and people will come up to him and ask him questions, and you gotta be present the way Jesus was. You have to be listening exactly what they're saying, comforting them. It's got to be challenging.
Yes, it is. You know, but you know, as you said earlier, as St. James tells us, faith without works is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I use that quite often, and I do that because so many people say, "Oh, you're so busy, always running around. You know, you have no time to reflect." I do reflect when I pray. You know, when I'm in bed at night and I have the rosary in my hand, I fall asleep with it. That's my prayer. Okay, God knows what I do, but it's our works, and you know, that's so important, you know, because, you know, people say, you know, I'm Catholic, I'm Christian, you know, whatever, but if you don't really put it into action, you know, it's dead. I mean, you hate to use those words, but you get animated by the people too. Like you say, you always have to be up. But, you know, when you walk into a church that's full, you get energized. First of all, you feel the presence of Christ in the assembly, in the people, and when it's full and people are alive in the Spirit, it energizes you, and you kind of work off each other.
I love it. You're right, and it's not a Sunday thing. It's not just something you could just wake up, go to church. This is a lifestyle. This is something you do every single day like you. When I wake up in the morning, the first thought is, how do I help people come to Christ? Like everything I do has to be in line with bringing people to Christ through the Emmaus Center, through all the work, the show. Everything we do, it's about bringing someone else to Christ through a relationship. Mm-hmm. And the one thing, too, you said about, and I still don't believe it, I know you're going to get upset, but you are responsible for the creation of Newman's salad dressing. And you mentioned the Carlisle, and I don't want to get into the weeds with that, but is that true?
Well, I'm not responsible for it, but I think I had a hand in it. When I was working in the hotel business, I was at the Carlisle Hotel, and that was one of your high-end hotels. And we had all the stars, people on Broadway, and high-powered people staying there. And on Sunday night, for about 6 weeks, while Paul Newman was filming a movie, he would stay at the Carlisle, and he would come in after a long day of shooting, and he was tired, and you know, after a long day at 10 o'clock at night, you don't want to have a heavy meal. So he'd come in and he would eat light, and every Sunday night he would want a salad. And rather than ordering a salad off the menu, he would ask me to bring some of the ingredients. And we had tableside service, so we did make some of the dishes, tableside. So he would say every night, bring me some egg yolks and mustard, salt and pepper, oil and vinegar, and different things. And I would bring it out, and he'd say, put a little this, put a little that, and he would change it up a little bit. I did that for a couple of weeks, and then I would give it to him, serve it, and he would eat it. So one night, I served it to him, and my humor, I said, Mr. Newman, can I taste that salad dressing? Your salad. So I tasted the dressing, I tasted the salad, and I looked at him, I said, I think you better stick to acting. As a joke, and he laughed. And a couple of months later, I leave the Carlisle, I go to the Intercontinental to work. About a year later, I see on television, Paul Newman's salad dressing in all the supermarkets across the country. And I said, wow, look at this. I said, I helped him create that salad dressing.
I believe it.
And, so I always told that story to many people. And then years later, when I became a priest and I got involved in development, I learned that all the profits went to charity. And he has since passed. And I say to myself, too bad he wasn't still alive, because I think he would have helped me with some of my charities, Futures in Education and the Catholic Foundation. So I tell that story. Let's move ahead, maybe 15, 20 years. It's now about 3 years ago, and I'm at Rayo's. And I go there quite often because, it's one of those restaurants you're hard to get in. And I usually auction off tables there, and we make some money. So I was there one night, and I happened to meet someone from Rosewood Hotels. And they own now the Carlisle. When I was there, it was a family-run operation. So anyway, we start talking. He said, the Carlisle, he mentioned the Carlisle. I said, oh, I worked there. And I told the story about Paul Newman. And he said, Msgr, we're doing a documentary on the 100th anniversary of the Carlisle. Wow. And we're interviewing all the employees. So he said, call this person up. So I give them a call. They call me up. I come, I give an interview about Paul Newman, other people, Pearl Bailey that used to stay there, James Cagney. 6 months later, I hear nothing, 8 months. All of a sudden, I'm in the rectory, I get a mail, I get an invitation to a premiere at the Paris Theater in Manhattan.
In the city.
For the premiere of Only at the Carlisle. So I go with my collar on, I don't see anyone I know, most of the employees, I was there many years ago. I sit in the back and I watch, all of a sudden in the middle of the movie, they have this big interview. It had to be like at least 4 or 5 minutes. And I tell you, for a movie, that's a lot of time.
That's a lot.
So I'm sitting there looking. All of a sudden, when the show was over, everyone's coming up to me. Oh, I'm seeing you. You made the salad.
They thought the profits were going to you at this point.
So it was exciting.
That's
and
exciting.
And what's even more exciting is that every once in a while I hear people say, hey, Msgr, I couldn't sleep. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I put the television on, and I'm watching this movie Only at the Carlisle, and I recognize that voice. So that's the story.
All right, all right. I'll believe you, because there's a lot behind that. Because I know you've told that story several times. It's going to be in the cookbook as well, but you talk about it. But now we alluded, right? We're in this center, the Opera House, the Emmaus Center, the Cultural Center for the Diocese. You mentioned some of the things you do on a daily basis, which most of us can't do in a week or a month. I mean, when I look at some of your schedule, it's too much for me to process. But now you've taken on this responsibility. When you first came in this building a few years ago, and they were still building it under Monsignor Hernandez, what did you first think when you saw the space?
As soon as I saw it, I said, wow, this is a place where we really could do a lot. And I love to put on productions. I love crowds of people. But I also saw it as a means of evangelizing to this immediate community. And I was here in 1985, and there was all factories down here. There was nothing down here. You couldn't walk here after 7 o'clock at night. You put your life on the line. And I saw the potential here, especially with all the young people in the area. So I walked through and I said, this is great. And people know I love renovating. I renovate churches and parishes. And this was in the process. I looked at it, and I knew there was a reason why they brought me here. And so after they give me a tour, the bishop calls me in, and Monsignor Hernandez, and he says, we would like you to promote it. Oh, I said, thank you. Another ministry, I won't call it a job, but of course I think they know that I know a lot of people. We've put on productions, and you helped us at, Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center. We do a lot of, the Columbus Day Parade, and, we put on a lot of productions. So he knew that I would have the means to do this. And, you say, how do I do all I do? I do it because I have good people working with me. I don't say for me, with me. And that's why when they asked me for this job, the first person I thought of was you.
No,
And I knew that you would be able to do this. So getting you on board made me even more excited because you have so many great ideas. And I'm very enthusiastic about this center as a way of, evangelizing. We talked about a name. And I did say, I thought of the Emmaus Center because of those who aren't familiar, and hopefully everyone watching the show is familiar, on the road to Emmaus. After the resurrection, when the disciples were walking on the road and they were upset and sad that, Jesus was crucified, they didn't know what happened, they were lost, they didn't know where they were going to go with their life, do with their lives. And he appeared to them, but they didn't recognize him at first. It was only when he started speaking about what happened in Jerusalem and all the events that took place, then they recognized him. And their eyes were open and their hearts were burning. And I thought that that would be a great name for this because through the arts, we will reach out to the people in this neighborhood, get them in here, not recognize Christ at first, but once we start talking about Christ and use Christ as a theme and as a message in the music and the productions, maybe their eyes and hearts will be open to Christ.
I agree.
And that's the main purpose of this Emmaus Center.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of things. I mean, first of all, this neighborhood, like you said, is very secular, very challenging, and I love the challenge. And the thing that I mention all the time is a lot of the people I meet around here, especially, they say, I was raised ... And then I've been trying to figure out what is that missing link. But through the arts, like you said, we can bring them in the building and then plant the seed. The Holy Spirit will do its job. And then the thing about this building that makes it so unique is we go to MSG, we see a concert, I get in the car, I'm frustrated because of traffic. I see an event here, I can go downstairs and pray. Or I can come back and join the parish, I can get involved. There's so many opportunities to get involved through the arts. But just back to the point about the ... What do you think is the missing link? Why are so many young people today saying, I was raised, and now sort of have fell away or walked away or sort of distanced themselves from the church?
That's a question or an issue that has been around for a long time. It's not a present day issue. I remember when I was a kid, the same thing. Right after high school, you stopped going to church, okay? Once you went to college, you fell away from the church. And I remember as a kid doing high school confraternity, and we would have maybe 60, 70 kids there on a Wednesday night. But there were hundreds of kids in the neighborhood. And where were they? They were in the streets, they were playing basketball, or they were doing their own thing. So this isn't a problem that's just unique to today. What's made it worse today, of course, is social media, and younger teenagers and after high school, they're exposed to much more of the secular world than we were. But it was a problem we always, how do we get the young people in church? So it is not unique to today, but it is a growing problem. And ... basically today, we didn't have as much anti-religion when I was growing up. And maybe you were growing up, you're much younger than me. But today, there is an anti-religion throughout the country and throughout the world. I mean, you see in nations what very much, religious and Catholic, they're hurting as well. So with the secular world, the media, social media, pulling people away from the church, the young people get caught up in that because they're attracted to so many different things. So it is a problem. But it's a problem that's been around for a long time. We got to try to reconnect them as soon as possible because the longer you wait, the harder it is. The flip side of that is, as I said, the disciples were lost. They didn't know where their lives were going. That's an issue today. Many of these young people, they are lost. So maybe this is an opportunity where we can really get them back because they are so lost and they are searching. I mean, we've been here, people just walking by, they look. I'm not 10 blocks from here. I leave the church doors open all day long. I put glass doors so that people walking by Annunciation Church can look inside. I put a TV screen outside so people can see the inside. And they just look at it and they're amazed at the church and they just walk in just to look.
The outdoor coffee area.
The coffee area
what
that
an
we have,
idea.
they could sit
Sit and
outside.
reflect and look at the church.
They look at the church.
And then,
It's, you know, maybe they'll sit there and say, you know, what's going on in there?
exactly.
You know, what
You
do those
plant the
statues
seed.
mean? You know, I remember when I was a kid, we learned about Jesus and Mary and St. Joseph. And, you know, maybe it's time to learn a little bit more and come back.
You said a few things, and I don't want to debate you, but the one thing that I remember as a kid, which I wish they would do now, parents, my mother had this rule: no at church and no go outside. If we didn't go to church, we weren't allowed outside. And now the domestic church is sort of hasn't been, or the foundation of faith is not as strong, I believe, as when I was a kid, right? I'm not putting blame on anyone in particular, but it was a little different. We had to go to church. We were always involved in church. But the one thing, to your point, is the foundation of faith is still around. So we have a way of reconnecting with the youth. And I think, like you said, through the arts, through planting the seed, through the coffee, through all these different ways we can get people back to church, the way you do it at Annunciation.
Right.
So what are some of the events that you envision for this space, a way of connecting with the community? I know we just did an event last week, but what's sort of on your mind or on your heart?
First of all, to have concerts with Christian music, maybe productions and plays with Christian themes. That would be the first. And then have different types of art lectures or, you know, exhibits and lectures that they know what they're coming in for. So that would be for the people that, you know, maybe are searching a little bit more, but to also have the shows and the productions that have a little Christian theme in it, but they're attracted to the music, the artist, you know, the entertainment. That would be, I would say, the main events that we can have here. And then open it up also to other groups that may want to have meeting space. And when they come here and they look for a meeting space or an opera house, they happen to see the church, which is downstairs. And maybe, you know, oh, maybe we can have something here. Maybe we can have a prayer service before our event. I mean, there's many ways that we can use this center as a way to evangelize. And, you know, you mentioned about evangelization and reconnecting. For the last 25 years, one of the main focuses of the church has been the new evangelization. The new evangelization is really reconnecting adults that have fallen away, not just young people, people that made their confirmation, communion, baptism, confirmation, they had a good foundation, and then for whatever reason in life, they moved away. To reconnect them. So what we're doing now, we're just bringing the age group a lot younger. We have to reconnect them.
You're right.
So it is all forms of, you know, the new evangelization.
I love it. No, I agree. And the thing, one of the best things about Monsignor Jamie is that you set the bar so high with the events. You know, it's not just like, and I love that because we have the same vision. It's not just a guy with a guitar, and it's the vision of really creating an experience, right? And then from there, we always hope that the seed of the Holy Spirit is planted. They go downstairs, they reconnect with their faith. So, I mean, obviously this building is an initiative. How can the viewers support you, support the initiative? How can we get this all going to where people in the community and outside the community can come and use this space? How could they get involved?
Well, first of all, we have to get the word out. We have to get the word out of what we're doing here, what productions we're having, what events we're having. That's first. Second of all, you know, we would like people to maybe become partners with us, or become part of the Emmaus Center, supporters of the Emmaus Center, and send them out, you know, a monthly newsletter, let them know what's going on. And, you know, maybe they can come to the events and also sponsor some events and put the word out there. We do need a partnership with people that can really support the purpose of this center. Not support the event, but what this center is all about. It's always those finishing touches, a lot of times, that people forget that really make an event. Because when people come, you want them to leave full of life.
Yeah.
You know, and they're coming, you know, maybe they're lost a little bit, you know, they're hurting in life, and, you know, they're going through some difficult times. You want to give them a very uplifting experience, that they leave here happy. Yes, the message of Christ is there, but you want music, you want, you know, excitement, you want crowds. And those are the things that I try to put into an event. You give them something on the way out that they take home. A picture with them, or, you know, you even dance. You know, I love to dance, and, you know, people say, "Oh, you dance too much. You dance." Yeah, but to get people up,
No,
you
you're
know,
right.
when you're dancing, you see someone sitting there that probably maybe hasn't danced in 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, they lost their husband, or they're really depressed, and you get them up there, And it's just that little thing that, you know, they need at that moment in their life. They say, oh, this is what the church is all
Yes.
about. It's not just going to church and praying the rosary. It's being alive with Christ and knowing that no matter how difficult life is, there's always hope, and Christ will bring joy to your life in some way or another.
And you set that example. You do by your work, by your actions, by the way you treat people, how present you are, and you're always there. And just one thing I remember, when my son was born, the first night you were there, and you brought an Entenmann's cake or some chocolates that someone else gave you. I was like, you're re-gifted this. But the point was, you were there and you blessed him he was in, was it ICU or ICU?
Yes.
NICU, and you blessed him, and I'll never forget that, and I'm grateful for that. Monsignor, you have a lot coming up. I know we have a cookbook, a statue, you have your show. I mean, you have so much going on. So we're going to tell the viewers to follow Monsignor Jamie on social media, his homilies, his parishes. Your 2 parishes
Our Lady of Mount Carmel Annunciation, right in the neighborhood here.
That's in Williamsburg,
Yes.
Brooklyn, which Bensonhurst, Brooklyn used to be the place to be. Monsignor, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you for all that you do. I mean, first of all, I mean, you're very talented, but also it's not a job for you. You are dedicated.
No.
Okay, and you have Christ in your heart, and it shows. And I thank you for all that you do.
I appreciate
to make me look good.
I appreciate it. Hey, listen, it's, you know, Christ chased after me, and now I'll spend the rest of my life chasing after him and letting people know how he's impacted my life. And I'm going to call my wife and tell her we can pay the light bill this month. I didn't get fired from this interview. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Walk in Faith. Always remember, you have the ability to inspire and evangelize through your words and actions. God bless you.